As I said, an extraordinary way to start off one's that young Sindile has been a little on edge of late, and I definitely don't want him to feel as though he's in any way threatened by us or uncomfortable with us. So I know we've found ourselves in a rather awkward position. That's definitely not the best view of him we've ever had, although we keep getting glimpses of an eye every now and again. And the gentle scent of a 2-day-old impala washing over us in this nice afternoon heat. If you do have any questions that you'd like to send through, you can do that on #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@WildEarth.tv. It was so incredibly kind of Steph to give me this opportunity to come and see Sindile. I was doing rough calculations. I have no idea how much of that you did actually get to hear, but I haven't seen Sindile since he was around in June, the middle of June, during our Father's Day TV special. So a very, very special young male leopard. And what a way to be welcomed back into the bush after a 2-week absence. Had the most incredible sighting this morning. I went out on the back of the vehicle with Brent since it was his birthday. We had elephants in the mist, a beautiful morning, and I always feel this incredible sense of peace and tranquility whenever I return after an extended absence from a place that I consider my home. And thank you very much, James Richard, who has sent through a welcome back message for me and wanted to know how cute the wild dog puppies were. Well, James Richard, it was a vehicle that consisted of Brent's mum, Jerry, and myself. And for both Jerry and myself, it was the first time we have ever seen, sorry, we're busy looking at a leopard and talking about wild dogs, but I just have to tell you about this. It's the first time I've ever seen wild dog puppies. I'm trying not to get too excited because he's right there. Oh, angry elephant somewhere. Oh yes, so the first time I've ever seen wild dog puppies this small. This was our first day of leave. We went out with Brent's mother, who lives on a reserve just outside Hoedspruit. These things must have been this big. They were absolutely adorable. And the best part of it was we actually got to see the adult dogs return to the den and regurgitate the food, as they do for both the mother and the pups in the initial stages of their lives. And there was these 7 little ones. And I went back 2 weeks later, just before I came back to Djuma, and went out with Brent's mum again. And these things had grown up so much. And their ears had started to stick up, you know, those giant Mickey Mouse wild dog ears, except for the one that just had the most amazing floppy ear. It was the best experience. This, of course, is also marvelous. I'm a little bit reluctant to move. I'm just going to let him feel nice and comfortable and secure with us, although he seems to be thoroughly distracted by the prospect of lunch. While we do a little bit of manoeuvring about and trying to get a slightly clearer view of the marvelous Sindile, let's head. As you can see, we have repositioned, and in the great chess game that is live wildlife filming, Sindile has seen our movement and countermanded with a movement of his own, which then placed his head right back behind the tree, as he tucks into what's left of his impala carcass with considerably more relish than I think I myself might approach that task. Now, I beg your forgiveness for one moment. I just want to chat to Herbert on the Game Drive channel, who's been desperately trying to call me. I'll open it up so that you can hear our conversation as well. Oh, no, never mind. Steph's chatting to Herbert. And we'll leave those two at it to finish off their conversation. So we have a Game Drive channel that we use to communicate the sightings and coordinate our movements. So, as Sindile munches away, of course, the most noticeable thing about the sighting, if of course we could see his head and his neck, would be... Oh boy. It's all right. He definitely is a little bit on edge. Obviously, his treks throughout the greater reserve, into the Kruger National Park, have left him with a slightly nervous feeling. You can hardly blame him, being the young male leopard. But of course, the first thing that one notices about him in this sighting is the giant collar that sits around his neck. Now, most of our regular viewers will be so familiar with the story so as probably to be sick to death of it, although I doubt that could ever be the case, naturally. But if you will give me some patience, I'm just going to go into it very, very quickly. So the story behind the wonderful young Sindile was that when he was close to a year old, He was left by his mother Shadow, who disappeared off for long, long periods of time. And of course, a young male leopard is only really independent at about 1.5 years, maybe even closer to 2 years old. But Sindile was left to fend for himself, and as it was, he happened upon a dog that had wandered in through from one of the local villages, so a feral dog that had somehow found its way into the reserve, and he caught the dog. It was later confirmed that the dog had rabies, which is, of course, a very, very dangerous disease out here, and something that is transmissible to both animals and humans alike. And as a result, young Sindile was whisked off to the incredibly competent care of a nearby rehabilitation centre, where he was given a series of injections and vaccinations and kept very much away from any contact with human beings. And then, in an extraordinary twist to the tale, he was released back into the wild, close to his, what we would call his natal area, around the 5th of May. We're not quite sure exactly where he was released, but he was released back into this area. Hello, boy. It's also windy today, which is why he's a bit unsettled. And we've been treated to some extraordinary sightings ever since. And for a now 2-year-old leopard, he's been doing the most phenomenal job of readjusting to his life in the wild, hunting for himself, looking after himself, and generally barreling about the Sabi Sands like a small spotted leopard-shaped cannon. From the northern part of the Sabi Sands into the Manuleti, into Kruger, into the southern part of the Sabi Sands, doing exactly what a young male leopard does best, which is avoid trouble and try and find himself a nice niche where there's no horrible big males to chase him away, and hopefully not too many lions and hyenas either. So to see Sindile back with us once again on Djuma is an absolute pleasure. Hey, gorgeous. And he is beautiful. Isn't he just so handsome? I mean, the bits of him you can see, of course, hidden behind the tree. And we've got to take absolute advantage of these moments, because with young Sindile and his movement patterns, we never know when he's going to disappear, and we never know when he's going to reappear. It could be, it could be months until we next get a sighting like this, or an opportunity like this. I hope that's not the case, but it could well be. So for new viewers, none of our other leopards have those collars around their necks. This is a totally wild leopard. He fends for himself. He is 100% wild. He just happens to be very, very special and unique. He's been fitted with that collar for the purposes of monitoring his progress as an animal released back into the wild after an extended period in, I use the word captivity lightly, but in captivity. Oh, yummy. It's exactly what I felt like for lunch. I don't know about you, Gendre. And a lovely message coming through from Kat in Tampa. Kat, it's wonderful to be amongst your presence and, of course, all of our other many wonderful viewers. It is so lovely to be back. And Kat has said she absolutely loves Sindile. Oh, how could you not? With those big, innocent blue eyes and that beautiful face of his. And Kat says perhaps someday somebody will write a book about him. I can almost guarantee, Kat, that somebody will write a paper about him, or at least including him as one of the subjects in terms of research. And who knows, between the many guides of... Hello. Gorgeous boy. Oh, I love his eyes. There's the many guides of Wild Earth. Of course, Mr. Hendry is the one with the commitment to writing a full book and publishing them. He's done several. But between all of us, I think one of us might manage to fit him into our memoirs one day. And off he goes. It's blisteringly hot this afternoon. I went away and I came back and summer had arrived. Chandra, doesn't it feel that way? It's definitely gone from winter to summer, so it's hot for him. And with his full belly, he's going to go and look for some shade. Of course, whilst it is boiling hot, it is also incredibly dry. And Aaron in New Zealand, it's lovely to have you on board, as always. Do we have a prediction date for the next big rains? I think we should get a bet going. That's a measly portion, Sindile. Shame, boy. Not much left of your carcass. Oh, shame he's trying to cover it up. Hide the scent away from the hyenas. So apparently there is a conversation about when the biggest rains will be. What counts as big, by the way? Are we talking 5 plus? Are we talking 10 plus? 15 plus? 20 plus? Okay, 20 plus. Alright, so it's over 20 mils, and we need a prediction date. Jandre, would you like to give it a go?
We've already got quite a bet going that they're not coming.
Okay, so Jandre says not at all. Oh, goodness, that's it. Well, they have to at some point. It might just be, yes, October 2017, which of course we certainly hope is not the case. So Brian and Dave are on the early bird boat, which is of course what we are hoping for. Although I have to admit September would be, that would be very early for a big rain. My guess would be I'm hoping for some time in October. We are, of course, for new viewers, we're in a crippling drought at the moment, which is great for leopards like Sindile. He is sitting pretty at the moment, or at least all of our predators are sitting pretty. But as you can see, as he sits there and munches away on his measly morsel, there's not much around in terms of vegetation cover. Now, typically, we're going into our rainy season now. We usually get our big rains around the end of October, beginning of November. All right, I'll stop prevaricating and I will give you a date, and I will say the 23rd of October. I have absolutely no idea why I said that, but there you go. There is no rhyme, reason, nor science behind that. In fact, I'm not even sure it was an educated guess, but for some reason, the number 23 jumped out at me, so I'm going to say the 23rd of October. So there we go. Let us see which of us is going to be correct in our guesses. Oh, goodness, Lou. You and I are on the same page. Lou has betted the 24th of October will be when we get our big rains. Sure. Okay, Chandra taking the 18th. He's decided to brush aside his... Oh, that's what Sindile thinks of your prediction, Chandra. Oh. Hairball. Oh. Are we going to vomit or eat some more? Eat some more. Okay, fair enough. I often find myself in that predicament. And for those of you who are concerned about that collar, Gerry Camacho has come through. I know this has been passed on, but for those of you who perhaps missed that update, Gerry Camacho has come and had a look. He said that collar is still fine and that it will drop off when it does get to the point of being too tight. But for now, it isn't. Although it looks uncomfortable, it isn't in any way sort of pushing on his neck or anything like that. It is a strange thing to see, though, on a wild animal, I must say. I value it for the research and the information that it provides and the future that it provides for different cases like Sindile's, but I would prefer to see him without it, of course. Okay, so the 18th of October, Gendre. We shall wait and see. And on that note, waiting and seeing, let us go and find out. Let us no longer wait. Let us go and find out what is happening with Steph and his search for Mvula. Ooh, hold on. He's seen something. Just hold on 1 second. Something gave him a fright. I think he's just nervous. He might have had a few encounters with hyenas last night because his carcass was on the ground. So it might just be on a breezy afternoon. He's heard something coming. Nah, he's relaxed again. Okay. He's going to go and find himself a nice shady patch, and I think we'll try and stick with him and see where he goes. If Sindile does decide to move off, just to finish off quickly, if he decides to move into this block, because of... Oh, I think he's fine. I think it's safe to say that all is well. Thank goodness Brent left me with some vials to collect some leopard scat. Right, so while young Sindile completes his ablutions in peace, let's go and find out from Steph how his search for Mvula's going. It is lovely here, although having enjoyed the pleasure of Steph's company, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's much nicer here. However, I've just realized that I'm a complete and utter silly person, because of course it wasn't the last time that I saw Sindile on the Father's Day show, because as Kirsty was updating us about the Steph's search for Mvula, I realized the last time I saw Sindile was with Mvula, sharing that impala carcass not far from where we are now at all. So my apologies for that. I don't know how I managed to... I didn't so much erase that from my memory as just simply got my timelines mixed up. But nevertheless, as you can see, while you were with Steph, Sindile finished the sort of end parts of his digestive process of the impala, and we shall be heading back to where he deposited that scat on the ground at some point. Not right now, and I'll explain why. One thing I have noticed, one thing we know for certain with Sindile, I've accidentally walked him twice now, that since he's been released back onto the reserve, and he is not at all comfortable with people on foot. He's running away at 150 meters. So if I were to go now to where he deposited that scat and try and collect it, we would find ourselves with a very missing leopard. In fact, we would find ourselves with no leopard at all. Luckily, Brent, when he cleared out the car, left me with several lovely gifts. One was the leopard vial, the leopard scat vial, with its preservative silicone beads, you know, all the same basically. And into this I shall scrape and deposit a Sindile scat, and this will be shipped off to a company called Panthera. So we're going to write down all of his details on the little piece of paper that's tucked away in there, and off it will go to Panthera to be included as part of the genetic studies of the various cats, or at least in leopard terms, particularly focusing on the paternity of our various leopards, so who the father is, because that, of course, is one of the great unsolved mysteries of the leopard world. Which male leopards father which cubs, and is it possible to have two cubs of the same litter fathered by different fathers? So that's the whole plan, but of course I can't do that right now. I know that we did collect Sindile's scat at some point, but I quite simply cannot resist the compunction to go and pile some more scat into a tube. And it's not just that, it's also the fact that the more scat samples we get, the better in terms of the accuracy of the study that they're going to perform. So whilst we may not see results of the study for a considerable period of time, at some point, the much debated question, who is Sindile's daddy, will be answered by genetic testing. Could it be Tingana, the dominant male leopard, and the high sort of, I think, most people's favourite suspect? Or is it the Anderson male, or is it Mvula, who, of course, Steph has been searching for? And whilst he's been on the search of Mvula, he has found something else, something feathered and bright purple. This afternoon. Personally, I blame Gendre. I feel as though...
Thanks, Jamie.
It's a pleasure, Gendre. It's either Gendre or Jerry, both of whom, of course, arrived back before the afternoon drive. It's not me, because the gremlins did not attack this morning, as far as I know. So it was absolutely fine this morning, therefore it's not me, and the only other logical explanation is that Gendre or Geraldine brought it back with them. I did see Mr. Hendry driving back in with Dave and Peter Drought. Oh, and Ian, actually. Ian's here as well, so it could be any of those suspects, but it's not me. I am innocent. It is a day of many newcomers and many people disappearing. We've had quite the changeover of staff. Anyway, Sindile is completely unfazed by our problematic moments with the gremlins, and as you can see, he is snoozing quite peacefully on his termite mound. He's perfectly relaxed, but he is restless, and he is keeping a close eye on us, so we're going to settle with our lovely view of him from here for now, and we'll just let him have as much space as he needs. He does look like, though, he's got the best spot this afternoon, which of course a leopard is very good at, but he's found himself a really nice shady patch in the shelter of that termite mound. While our lovely leopard...
Definitely is a big cat afternoon there, Jamie, and we have been spending a fantastic time with Sindile, the leopard, on the termite mound, very close to where he had the leftovers of his kill. I cannot see anything of his kill. I don't know where it is. Beautiful evening sky that Brian's busy showing us there. And have a look. Ta-da! Leopard all of a sudden magically appears out of the darkness. I can't actually see any piece of the kill left anywhere. I mean, he may have covered it. Leopard quite often will scratch leaves over a kill. It's not in the tree anymore that he had treed it in, and it's very possible that he's actually finished it. He's been here now for 3 days, and that's more than enough time for a leopard to finish an impala. And I'm fully expecting to stand up as soon as it gets full dark and move off. Even if it's just a short distance away, He's been defecating and urinating. The impala's been rotting around here, and there's a pervasive smell of leopard. And he will be wary enough, after having survived these last 23 months, to know that he needs to move out of this area to stay safe. Not breathing as hard as he was yesterday, at least whenever we were here. We were here early this morning in the mist, and then he still had a back leg left of impala. Look at those whiskers come forward. For those of you who were noticing that, you watched him. Oh, there we go, a little burp. Watch, he puts those whiskers forward. That's how he senses the world around him. In the pitch black, those whiskers will come forward like that and will touch and probe any openings in the bush in front of him and allow him to move absolutely silently through gaps that he can fit into. You can see those whiskers on his eyebrows. Look at that. Oh, that's a brilliant shot. For those of you quick enough, see if you can get a picture of his whiskers pointing forward. Then there we go. There you go. That's fantastic. That is not a picture that you often see. Normally these leopard are not caught looking out of sorts with their whiskers out. It makes them look quite comical. They're normally very sleek. There he goes again. That fly. Oh, yes, go again. Oh. That is just such a fantastic picture. You can even see he's got some whiskers on his cheeks, all designed to allow him to gauge a space that his body will fit through in near pitch blackness. Then underneath his eyes, on his bottom eyelid, you'll notice a white stripe. That is there to reflect starlight into his eyes, allowing him to see a better picture. He's now walking straight at us. We're just going to sit still. I don't quite know the reaction that he's going to have to us. He's coming to me. I'm not going to finish talking. He must know that I'm... Oh, he's going to have a wee. Contented cat. Oh, look at that. He's got a bit of a scar. Is that a scar? Yes, it's a scar on top of his nose. That in years to come will be diagnostic. You can see our Land Rover reflected in his eyes. We're just going to sit still. Sit still. Don't move at all. I'm just busy speaking to Brian. It's going to be hard for him not to move while we're turning the camera. Roger, you've just asked me if he's likely to start sawing anytime soon. Roger, I'd say he's probably a year or so away from sawing. And for those of you who don't know what sawing is the name that we give to a leopard's roar. It sounds like a rasping wood saw. And is very, very distinctive. Carries, funnily enough, quite far. And there he moves off. I actually think that he's going to leave. Going into a monkey orange thicket, which is near impenetrable for us. Let's just see where he's going to go, if he's going to come out. I'm busy watching him. We can now move, but he gave us these weary eyes, I must be honest. Leopard that have had a history like Sindile has, where he lived in very close proximity to humans in his quarantine facility at Moholoholo, I have a distrust of them. And it's because they lose that instinctive fear of humans and will gauge us and our weaknesses very, very finely. And I don't want to be close to a leopard that is not scared of people, because he realizes we're just mushy pieces of skin covered in cotton clothing rather than the dangerous predators that we are. He is moving to another termite mound. I wonder if he hasn't stashed his kill on top of another termite mound. Let's go and follow him a little bit. We won't be able to stick with him for too long. This monkey orange thicket is a big one. But anyway, following 8 minutes of this drive, let's see if we can stick with him. Alright, now I'm going to get myself into a pickle here. See, I don't mean to disturb your peace there, guy. You can see him standing on top of that termite mound. That is a classic leopard pose on top of a termite mound, in particular for a male leopard. Oh, that is so beautiful. Take some pictures now, everybody. I'm not expecting Sindile to just up and leave. He's shown remarkable homing capacity in coming back here after being away for so long. And while he's 23 months old, and I expect him to leave within the next 6 months, you never quite know where his wanderings are going to take him. He's fully independent at the moment. His mother Shadow has got a new cub to look after, and although he's adjacent to her territory, she does sometimes come to here. And it's not impossible that she may have even killed this impala and brought him to it. But just have a look at this leopard on top of this termite mound. Isn't that just a fantastic picture? Just have to say well done to Brian. There's these coffee table things that you see. Barring the fact that I've managed to place us with the only piece of grass in front of his face. Oh, that's fantastic. He would just be using the termite mound as a bit of elevation. It gives him a nice viewpoint over the bush. I understand fully what he does. I've done it myself on countless occasions and tracked many countless leopard up onto the crests of these building-sized termite mounds. And there he has a bit of a sleep. And that's precisely what I expected him to do, is move away from this pervasive smell of impala death and leopard and dung and urine, and go on top of a termite mound where he could quite easily sleep the rest of the night, keeping a weather eye and ear open for any disturbance. And rightly so, hyena and lion will most likely go to the site of the kill, giving him advanced warning and the ability to slip off unnoticed. Just as he closes his eyes on top of this fantastic termite mound, after this fantastic day, a real cat-filled day. I haven't seen this many cats in one day for the last decade, and I haven't seen this many cats in the last 6 months.